Okay, conservatives, UCP, and Doug Ford will tell you everything's going into a handbasket where you're being dealt a bad hand. It's going into hell in a handbasket, and it's all because of the liberals. That's what they've always been saying. Here's Pierre Poilievre, the master of everything, and actually the master of nothing. He's the master of everything, and yet he's the master of nothing. Guy's been a politician all his life. He was a minister under the Stephen Harper government. He'll tell you nothing about that period in time. He'll just say the lost 10 years under the liberals. I'm going to show you a different side of things. I'm going to show you the truth, not a manufactured truth by some guy that does not know how money actually works within the very system he wants to govern. Pretty dangerous. You'd think after Donald Trump, that's a perfect example to teach you what not to do. You don't want to do this with Poilievre. Trump was the president under COVID. Because of what happened with COVID and how you had no supply chain, business came to a grinding halt. You had to spend money so people could live, and that's how inflation spiked. And then because of that, you blame it on the following government, and then you put the guy that created the problem by Trump back into power. That's kind of like what you're doing here with Poilievre. When him and Harper were in government, they helped create the problem. But let's be honest, many governments under using neoclassical economics going back to Thatcherism and Reaganism have created this problem. One of the few guys that's been able to stick handle through it fairly well in a very interesting way was a guy by the name of John Chrétien. But let's go back to here, June 22. Pierre Poilievre and his shadow minister of finance. They don't care about Canada. They just want to get into power. You've got an existential threat from the Americans you have not seen in 250 years. We had the financial crisis, then we had COVID, which was another not seen in 100-year worldwide disaster, and now we have this guy, Trump, that's trying to repeat the 1930 tariffs with Smoot-Hawley so that everybody that wants to deal with the United States has to pay a price of admission. Doesn't get any better than that. Snidely Whiplash would love it. Dudley Do-Right would come to the rescue. But we're not in a cartoon situation, folks. Let's deal with reality. The reality, you say?
Everybody, my name is Jazz Howland. I'm the Member of Parliament for Calgary East and the Shadow Minister for Finance. Another morning, another devastating Statistics Canada report exposing Mark Carney's illusions. Even the Bank of Canada admits that deficit spending by the government leads to higher inflation. And despite Mark Carney saying that he was a better money manager than Justin Trudeau, he doubled his deficit and not only gave...
So they're going to tell you deficit spending is the problem. They've been saying that's been the problem from day one. But that's a misnomer. Actually, if you do real-world models, you're going to find out that's not true. It's really not true. And why do I say that, and how can I say that? Well, I go to lectures with an economist, well-known economist. He actually predicted the 2008 financial crash. Okay? I got an email from him just a couple of days ago. So here you go. Credit is what moves the economy. This is his email to me. Credit is what moves the economy, not the headlines. The annual change in private debt creates an identical change in the money supply that gets spent into existence. It went from plus 1.5% of GDP before 2008 to minus 6% after. And that swing is what caused the crisis. This is what these guys want to do. They say the deficit. So they want to squeeze money that goes into the system, create a surplus, which is going to create the problem that you're trying to fix. And it's right here in black and white here. The real danger is private debt, not government debt. And they're trying to tell you the inflation thing and everything's because of government debt. Well, you got rid of a prime minister. His name was Trudeau because of carbon tax. Trudeau. Get rid of the carbon tax. It'll make you rich. Get rid of the carbon tax for the consumer. It'll make you rich. So finally, Mark Carney had to get rid of it because had no choice because of public opinion, because of these platitudes and slogans from a conservative guy that has no idea how money really works in the system. And I'm going to prove it to you. But the thing is, the real danger in private debt is not government debt. Everyone fixates on the almost $40 trillion in public debt in the United States. Meanwhile, U.S. private debt only fell from 1.7 to 1.5 times GDP, and it's climbing again, and that is the bomb. That's what created the 2008 financial crisis. That's what created the Great Depression. It's private debt. When your government's not putting money into the system, you get private debt and speculation out of control, credit default swaps, mortgage MBSs, mortgage-backed securities, and just greed on Wall Street. Wall Street and the financial system and corporations have no conscience. They have no conscience whatsoever. The only obligation they have is to their shareholders and the directors to make them money. They have no corporations, and Wall Street and the financial markets have no conscience to the environment. It doesn't care. That's why they want to take away regulations. They want to toxify your neighborhoods, make sure you get unhealthy, turn over the population quicker so that they can make more money. Seems a rather harsh statement to make, but that's the reality when you look at things. The problem is private debt, not government debt. And this is what people do not understand. This is what's creating the problem. Here, this guy told you. He told you right out in front and center. You can hear it again. Well, it's still fresh in your mind.
Everybody, my name is Jazz Holland. I'm the Member of Parliament for Calgary East and the Shadow Minister for Finance. Another morning, another devastating Statistics Canada report exposing Mark Carney's illusions. Even the Bank of Canada admits that.
Okay, so it's the Stats Canada report, and the report's just a report. It has no opinion attached to it. He creates an opinion. Everybody creates an opinion to these reports. And this is what you have to understand. They're going to create a belief system to create fear, and that's working against you. And you're going to support this guy because what he's offering to do has created the problem. So if he's going to offer the cure that created the problem to fix it, so the cure created the problem, why would you offer the cure as a fix to the problem? And this is all the conservatives are doing. And it's just a two-step. And the two-step is done well by the UCP party under Danielle Smith and Doug Ford. These guys are notwithstanding clause kings and queens. They can't do it through negotiation, pragmatism, and factual understanding conveyed to the general public. No. They do slogans, platitudes. They think they know better than anybody else. And it's just simply not true. Now we're going to get further into this. We're going to go into 320 here on this, and we'll see what Mr. Poilievre has to say. Mr. Poilievre.
Les Canadiens paient plus à l'épicerie. Point d'autres excuses.
Je ne sais pas, monsieur.
Pour la reste rapidement. Mais malheureusement, de nous battre pour une vie abordable. En éliminant
I thought in this one it went a little bit differently. Maybe
les
not.
bonbons pour les faux. Much to Shadow Minister.
Okay, here we go.
Sécuritaire chez nous.
He's going to go into English right here.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You're welcome.
Very much to Shadow Minister.
Elvis has left the building.
Jazz Holland for being here today. We are in this business to bring back the promise of Canada, of a country that is affordable here at home, so people can afford food, homes, gas, and cars here at home. They used to. But after a decade of Liberals, people can't afford to live in Canada. Housing costs are the worst in the G7. food prices have driven.
Do I have to repeat this to you again? I think I do because people just don't pay attention. Listen to what he says.
As Halan, for being here today. We are in this business to bring back the promise of Canada, of a country that is affordable here at home, so people can afford food, homes, gas, and cars here at home. They used to. But after a decade of liberals.
Okay, so after a decade of liberals, it's always the liberals, liberals, liberals. He can't take responsibility for anything he's done whatsoever. And you say, Michael, what are you talking about? What can you possibly be talking about? Well, let's look at things from a different perspective. Let's get David from the Rational National. Okay, so now I'm going to get David up here, and David's going to take it away. You're going to see somebody else presenting something to you slightly differently as well. Okay, so what you had there was an AI. I just did a video on AI done by Americans and Russian operatives to destabilize Canada to promote the conservative ideological way of living, which is going to exasperate the affordability issue and other issues, not create relief from them. We've got a hard slog to get out of what's been created. This has been going on since the 1970s, and it's peaked at this point in time. Plus, we have terrorists from the United States that make it substantially worse at a time when it's not needed.
Oh, do I have a treat for you. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre shared out an ad made in AI slop, and I have some thoughts. Not just about the slop, which, it looks like shit, as all slop does, but the contents of the slop in relation to the man sharing it, as well as the group behind the slop. So let's get to it. Here is Pierre Poilievre, opposition leader, sharing out this trash from Build Canada, saying, Canadians make ourselves a lot of promises. Time to live up to them, or there won't be a future to hand off. Build Canada, actually. So we're going to get to how wild it is that Pierre Poilievre shared out this ad in particular, not because of the AI, but because of the message here. But let's watch this together.
But before we watch this, I want to add another point that should resonate with you. These are dehumanizing societal influences. Let this sink in. What this Conservative Party is slogans and platitudes and these advertisements are dehumanizing societal influences. Just like social media, and that's where Trump has made himself so popular so fast, the guy from Elon Musk, is because they're not regulated. And these societal dehumanizing by polarizing and pitting against one another influences have changed the landscape of how everybody looks at things, and nobody can understand this chaos and figure it out. You're trying to rationalize it, but you're being manipulated and programmed in real time. Let's go back to David here.
And just to give you an idea of the kind of trash that is being produced. Okay. Notice there's no voice actor because they'd have to actually pay somebody. Yes, build Canada, but we're not going to pay Canadian actors or Canadian directors or Canadian DOP or a Canadian set designer. But sure, build Canada as long as you don't make us build Canada. Just that in itself is silly. But how about the fact that Pierre Poilievre sharing out this ad, which, look, the message of the ad, I have no issue with. Yes, there are things that have been promised to us many times over that have not been built. That's undeniable. That isn't the issue here. The issue is how this is being used by people like Pierre Poilievre, who clearly this is an ad where, they're saying this train is coming. We're going to build rail here. And then it never comes because promises made, promises weren't kept. Well, how can we apply this to today? Because we have a high-speed rail project called Alto that is in development, a liberal government initiative, which, yes, they've promised many times in the past to build high-speed rail, never did. As did conservatives, never did. But now it's finally starting. And who is in opposition to this high-speed rail?
I'm announcing today that Conservatives oppose the $90 billion Liberal Alto train that we call on the Carney Liberals to cancel.
Okay, so now they oppose the high-speed rail. High-speed rail corridors can actually build up populations along those corridors. And you get no investment in Canada. This is why governments need to have to put more of a deficit to invest in Canada. High-speed rail is one of the investments. If you look at what's happened to China over the last decade and how that has transformed itself with high-speed rail, you will be amazed. And then you'll understand why and how important. And just this one single line is really peanuts in comparison, but already this guy is he puts an ad with AI saying build Canada, they don't build anything, no high-speed rail. We got a high-speed rail in the works to be fast-tracked. And what's he doing? March 31, 2026? What'd he say? What did this guy say?
To this high-speed rail.
I'm announcing today that Conservatives oppose the $90 billion Liberal Alto train that we call on the Carney Liberals to cancel it, and I am confirming that a future Conservative government will cancel this $90 billion boon.
There you go. Also in the 1970s, a guy by the name of Pierre Elliott Trudeau was trying to form Petro-Canada and create a national energy program for energy independence across Canada. But Peter Lougheed, Premier of Alberta, I'm not getting a fair deal, even though they renegotiated, got a better deal. See the same thing with Danielle Smith right now, Alberta government. Funny how, they create a situation of separation. 54th state, they allow the Americans to infiltrate Alberta and Canada with the propaganda to separate Canada, to try to take over Canada. The worst mistake that Canadians can make. But this is what we have at play here now.
Doggle altogether.
That's right. Pierre Poilievre out there back in March, a few months ago, voicing his opposition to the high-speed rail project, the $90 billion boondoggle. Meanwhile, today, he's out here tweeting videos about how we don't build things anymore. Why don't we build stuff like high-speed rail? Like, it's just, you can't get any more ridiculous than this. What an absolute fucking clown. And it doesn't just stop at rail, by the way. Like, it goes into housing. This article from a couple of years ago, Conservative MPs frustrated after Pierre Poilievre bars them from promoting housing fund. One party source says MPs are being prevented from helping cities for partisan reasons. Going on the right, source say that Poilievre has instructed Conservative MPs to stop advocating on behalf of municipalities in their ridings who want to obtain funds through the $4 billion Housing Accelerator Fund. The Accelerator Fund is designed to help cities build housing-related infrastructure. And this goes, deep into his history. QP has a great breakdown here over the years of Pierre Poilievre opposing housing development.
Look at this chart. Look at this chart. Poilievre, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, voted against initiatives to make housing affordable and addressed Canada's housing crisis in 2006, 2009, 2010, 2013, and 2014, when conservatives were in power, and again in 2018 and 2019 as a member of the official opposition. Also, he would rather not anybody got COVID benefits. Everybody just friggin' rot at home. Oh, you got to fast for a couple of years. Just fast for a couple of years. I'll be here when you get back out because I got a salary that never stops. So Poilievre, Mr. Poilievre, was housing minister in Stephen Harper's conservative government, which allowed 800,000 affordable rental units to be sold off to corporate landlords and developers. This is all bona fide information. I've verified this information. This is real truth and fact, not spin by a conservative wannabe that wants to take the policies of what created the problem we're in now and use those same policies to fix the problem we're in now. How does that work? You live only in the present at any point in time, but you want to take what didn't work in the past, what you advocated for in the past, and you want to bring it to the present and use it for the present. You know, is that a double entendre? So the 800,000 affordable homes got sold off. And here's the problem, why it got sold off. I'll explain it to you in detail. Harper government, which really was not a conservative government, they hijacked the real conservative government. They're really just a combination of the Canadian Alliance, Reform Party, and the Wild Rose Party of Alberta. That's really the essence of this conservative party that's there federally, and the UCP party that you see in the premiership in Alberta in the present. So they promised all these tax cuts. They're giving all these tax cuts, and they've got these build infrastructure, Canada infrastructure, build infrastructure, big plans, big visions. But none of the money went into the infrastructure, or minimal amount of the money went into the infrastructure, because guess what? We led up to a financial crash, but based on their economics, they couldn't finance their plans because they did all these tax cuts. So they had no revenues and no monies to invest back into the people. They created the problem then, so they couldn't even deliver on their promises because of the way they just do business. And the IDU org, which is called Independent Democracy Union.org, Stephen Harper's the chairman. It's a conglomerate, a conflation of all the conservative governments and people around the world, includes the treasurer of the Republican Party in the United States, and they're influencing because they feel their ideologies is what's going to work. They figure their way is the only way, even though history has proven it is no way to live. It just creates hardship for people. Also, under the Harper conservatives, talk about housing affordability. Everybody wants to blame the last decade because that's all the slogans and platitudes are spun. Blame the last decade of the Trudeau government, of the Liberals. Guess what? Under the conservatives, when they were in power, the average home price went up 70%. Worse than the awful 45% increase under the Liberals. And they refuse to do anything about it. They want to use the free markets to fix things. Free markets show they don't care about making anybody other than making money for themselves. They don't care about people. They just care about making money. So Poilievre wants to terminate the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund, cutting billions of dollars from housing construction and making it harder for municipalities to build more homes. Makes no sense. Blames the government for having these programs in place. Meanwhile, he wants to take these programs away, which is just going to make it worse. Rent controls. You need three things across the country. You need rent controls, energy controls, and food price stabilization controls. Just those three things alone. Once you have those in place and you do your best to regulate them, everything else falls into place for the most part. People just don't get it. As conservative governments, Doug Ford took away rent controls. He's actually making it easier for landlords to turf people. Meanwhile, you got private people just buying up housing so that they can make a quick profit on the backs of other people. It's about balance. It's out of whack. Can't have it both ways because everybody's trying to have it both ways. You can fix everything for everybody, but it means investing in the people. A bottom-up approach instead of this trickle-down approach that's never, ever worked. I'm going to move to the next screen in a second. Let's see what David has to add here.
Initiatives to make housing affordable and address Canada's housing crisis in 06, 09, 10, 13, 14 when they were in power, and again in 2018, 2019 as a member of the opposition. Poilievre was also the housing minister for Stephen Harper's Conservative government, though I want to be clear, not technically the housing minister. He had a different title, but housing was one of his jurisdictions, which allowed 800.
Okay, I'm not going to go further into this video because, there's going to be a lot of salient points to be made for sure. Well, let's go to another one here. And these are conservative influencers. These people buy into this stuff. They don't know any better. And this is where, we got this Christian nationalism thing going across the world. Christian nationalist, where, the cultural card between lesbian, gay, like a human being's a human being. Forget about man, the fact that you cannot embrace all sectors of society because they're all human beings, and you want to pull out the religion card, which is a cultural card. You want to use immigration as really a racist card, but you hide it as immigration. Immigration helps for GDP of a country. I guess you didn't figure that out. But anyways, Northern Perspective, they're conservative influencers. One day ago, 113,000 views on this video. What's this guy got to say?
Inflationary pressures are easing. The consumer price inflation rate is back in the Bank of Canada's target range.
We will be reducing inflation. We will grow the economy and we will build the future of Canada.
Inflation is down 2.2%. It's for almost 2 years. It's running within the Bank of Canada's target.
The annual inflation rate rose to 3.2%. That's the highest it's been since 2023.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have breaking news. The Liberals are running out of cherry-picked metrics to hide behind from their disastrous economic policies as inflation jumped to 3.2% in May, which is above the Bank of Canada's target range.
Well, did you get my memo? February 28th, March, April, May, start of the third month later. So February 28th, the guy started a war in the Strait of Hormuz in the Middle East. That's probably knocked $3.5 trillion out of the system worldwide. You don't think that is a factor? You don't think the energy costs in the United States haven't gone up? You don't think in order to transport those goods, the cost of fuel has gone up? Like, come on now. Like, wake up. Are we living in an Orwellian world of total ignorance? Deliver me from evil. Deliver me from ignorance is really what it is. Deliver yourself from ignorance. You can wake up, folks. This woke stuff's not a bad thing. Actually knowing what's going on and how things work, truly work to help people instead of relying on somebody telling you how to think and what to think. You can think for yourself. Let's see what this gentleman here has to say.
All the while, Mark Carney and Francois-Philippe Champagne are working to make food even more expensive. Let's take a look.
Yeah, sure. They've gone out of their way to make food more expensive. What have they done? They said, let's go bomb Iran? I don't think so. The only dumbass that's doing that is a guy by the name of Donald Trump and also a guy by the name of Benjamin Netanyahu. Then you complain anti-Semitism. It's got nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It's got nothing to do with it. Since 1938, you've had this Jewish Zionist movement fighting the Arabs, taking land, creating wars. Rest of the population Jewish population, great people, beautiful people, salt of the earth. But you have these hawks that say, and the same thing this guy Trump says, oh, we need to seize land, we need to seize oil for security. It's for our security. They're going to bomb us. It's for our security. They make up these bullshit excuses to do what they shouldn't be doing. They did it with Saddam Hussein, weapons of mass destruction. Meanwhile, Saddam was hiding in a little one-person friggin' hole in the ground when he was captured with all those weapons of mass destruction. Truly. Then Iraq. How long did you fight in Iraq? Just to give the country back to dissidents? What about Afghanistan? Turf the Taliban, but you give it back to the Taliban. Oh, brilliant moves. So, come on there, sir. When are you going to start waking up? Let's not. Why do we go for this pain and suffering when everybody can have benevolence and abundance? And it's really just as simple as that. You can create heaven on earth, or you can create antagonistical situations that don't exist because of a belief system that was created by your parents years ago. It's brought forward, and you want to have payback time. Nice. Smart. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. So anyways, this is where we're at. Now here you have people. People? Yeah, you have people. And it's rather unfortunate. They're twisting your mind. They're not telling you the truth. And if the truth comes to their attention, they don't acknowledge it and change their narrative. They're just caught up in wearing a badge on their shoulder. That's my tribe. That's who I am. Doesn't matter if it hurts people. I've been led to believe they're going to tell you that it's your salvation. Meanwhile, let's be realistic. Let go of this pain and suffering. Benevolence, harmony, balance, and abundance can be had for everybody. And it means making that decision. You can make that decision right now. Starts from within. Being kind to yourself, your community, and your neighbors. Love and peace to everyone. Arrivederci. Ciao for now.